Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Force with another Destiny guide for soloing this week's Nightfall, which is the Summoning Pits. Now as always, all tips here also apply to the heroic version, except it's a little bit easier because you don't have to deal with as many shields. The modifiers for this particular Nightfall include Angry, so they won't be staggered, Light Switch, so avoid getting hit from melee range, and Arc Burn, so any arc damage will hurt, and that includes any arc damage that you have on your weapons. Now as you enter the strike, the first area you come across is the Gatehouse. Now in this very first room, the Nightfall modifier actually is not active, so you can technically die, but try to avoid doing it as we're being as safe as possible throughout the rest of the run. The first room does have some thralls. Now as a blanket warning, with these modifiers with Light Switch and Arc Burn, the thralls melee damage is Arc plus Light Switch means that they are going to one-shot you, so avoid getting near thralls in any situation. This room also has some acolytes, which are easy to pick off. There is a single wizard. Wizards are also a pretty big threat as they have a solar shield and arc damage, plus they shoot incredibly fast. So you can either use your arc weapons or solo damage and then an arc weapon to take out the wizards, but be very wary of wizards as well. And then the Hollow Knight, there's a single one of those. These are also dangerous because they have arc damage. However, they have an arc shield, so that means something like an arc sniper or an arc heavy weapon will take them out very quickly. Once you've cleared up this first room, it's then time to move down into the wave section by opening the gate, which will begin the 3 waves. Wave number 1 has a bunch of thralls, both the melee ones and the ones that explode when they get close to you. Again, stay away from thralls. The room also has some Hollow Knights, which once more have the arc shield. It's pretty easy first wave, just be careful for the knights ranged because again it is arc damage, so you don't want to get blown up, and just stay at a distance. It's suggested throughout this entire section that you basically stay at the entryway to this room, as it's your safest bet for avoiding fire. Wave number 2 is going to bring some acolytes, and some of which are going to be major. Acolytes aren't a big problem because they deal void damage, so just pick them off from a distance. This wave also has 2 wizards and some knights, and again remember, with those wizards and knights they do deal arc damage, so be careful. And now we move on to the third wave. This is the biggest danger. We've got a mix of all of the enemy types, thralls, acolytes, and knights, but the big problem with this wave is there are 4 wizards. Now basically what's going to happen is after you kill a few of the enemies, the 4 wizards will chase you and they will go all the way into the doorway that you're staying at. Once you see them coming towards you, you just want to run right back up the corridor back to that first room. This is why we actually cleared that first room, because you're going to need to go here as the wizards chase you into the hallway. Now they won't run all the way up through the doorway at the top of the hallway, so you're safe on this section, and then from here either pick them off by doing solar damage to drop their shields, or just use any of that arc damage weaponry that you have brought. And once you have cleaned up the 4 wizards and a majority of the enemies in the room, I think you can leave 1 enemy before the door opens up. The door will open up, and then this will give you access to the next section, which is the circular room with the big chain in the middle. This room has some thralls, both the melee ones and the exploding ones. There's also a single hollowed knight and an ogre. Now the hollow knight and the ogre will be standing in the back of the room on the platform. You can probably snipe these before you even encounter any of the other enemies. There's also 1 acolyte, but they're not much of a problem to deal with in this Nightfall. Once this room is cleared up, we'll be moving into the long hallway room known as the Circle of Bones. Once you go through the doorway, you'll be taking a left, in which case you'll encounter a single wizard, a bunch of different acolytes, and then once you've cleared many of those, there's also going to be a few thralls that will spawn from the doorway, so just be wary of being near that doorway when that happens. You then move towards the 2 hollowed knights. However, when this is happening, a hive dropship is coming that will be dropping a few acolytes as well as a wizard. I highly suggest killing the wizard so it doesn't shoot you from behind with arc damage while you are trying to deal with those 2 hollowed knights. Once the wizard is dead, kill those 2 hollow knights, which have arc shields and arc damage, so avoid getting shot by them. And then we'll be moving into the easiest part of this strike, which is the boss, Fogoth. So this is an incredibly easy boss fight to take care of. You'll be standing in a doorway and shooting the boss through a gap. First and foremost, you want to enter the boss room, and while he's chained up, get a bunch of shots off with as much arc damage as you can until he breaks his chains. When he breaks his chains, I want you to move back to the second room. The first room is the one closest to the boss. The second room is the one right after that. And then from this room, there's a little gap in which you can shoot the boss through, shooting past that first room into the big main boss room, and you'll be able to hit him. Now, you don't want to stand in that first room, the one closest to the boss, for more than 10 seconds, because doing so will actually cause a shrieker to spawn behind you, and that's just a pain in the butt, and it does a ton of damage. Now, when the boss inevitably moves when you're trying to shoot him from this gap, all you have to do is run back into the first room and either throw a grenade or fire off a few shots at him, and he should move back into position, so when you run back to that second room, you'll be able to continue to shoot him through the gap. And every so often, you'll get some enemies that may run in and block the door from that first room to stop you from shooting the boss. You simply just need to kill them and then continue along your adventure. Now, one bit of warning, do not run all the way back to the third room, which is the one closest to the knights, as doing so will cause the boss to reset and force you to start all over. And that pretty much does it. Again, this is an incredibly easy boss fight, and with the exception of the 3 waves, it's a relatively easy strike as well. Just be very, very careful during those opening gate 3 wave process, as that's where you are most likely to die. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this solo guide to this week's Nightfall, the Summoning Pits. Stay tuned for more Destiny and other great gaming coverage coming up here on the channel. Hope you have a great day. I will see you tomorrow. Keep watching and keep owning.
Well, at least it's chained up.